Okay, welcome to the safe place to share our stories. Aakitaapitsinikotsio'pa. No, that's not even close. Dang. And Dad, try me again. Hit it one more time. I'm glad that was so humorous for you, TJ.
Aakitaapitsinikotsio'pa. Okay, no, I can't say. Aakitaapitsinikotsio'pa.
Okay. All right. I'm not going to butcher it again. I'll practice on my own, and then I'll try it again. So, yes. I got to tell you, am getting comfortable with some Blackfoot words. I taught a firearm safety course on the weekend, and there were 5 Indigenous students there, right? And they were all sitting together, right? And at one part, I forget what it was. Oh, they were talking about writing the test, and they says, "Well, can we still sit here together to write the test?" And I say, "As long as there's no spumokitnapi, you could do this yourself. Yes, that's okay." So, anyways, we had a good chuckle about that. So, yeah. So I am looking forward to what you are going to tell us about your journey, about your adventure.
Yeah, it was a good trip. It was a quick 7 days, 8 days. Just getting to Chicago was quite the feat. Haven't traveled in quite a while, as many people. So uh, having to go through the COVID testing and having a delay on the flight. So we didn't get to Chicago till late Saturday, early Sunday morning, and then we just did some touristy things. We rode the big bus tour and took in the Navy Pier and just got to see where the museum was located, and went through downtown Chicago. So we got to see it that way and introduced that way. And then our bus was having to keep going around downtown because there was a protest. I mean, probably nothing compared to what we've seen in Lethbridge for protests for the Ukraine people. So they were walking in front of the Trump Tower and downtown Chicago. So that was very interesting. And then we just rested that evening and made our way to the museum the next morning, and had a really.
Can I interrupt for 1 second? I've never seen a big mob like that. Like you're saying, it was a huge the event that happened there, the demonstration, the protest, whatever it was huge. Did you feel fearful?
Oh no,
no,
because they were just walking. There was really nothing. I think we were just at the tail end. They were just showing solidarity for the Ukraine. They weren't, traffic was blocked, but they weren't just standing there. They were moving and they were leaving. So, and there was little groups coming in, and then they were, going their way. So it was quite peaceful. There was police that followed them throughout the downtown core. So no, I never felt fearful of anything. Yeah.
And this journey in total, how many COVID tests? 4, 6, 10? How many times did you? 4 times.
4. Well, I did my own rapid test at home before I left, and then we had to take a rapid test at the airport before we were allowed on the flight. We had to show proof of that, and then coming home, we did a rapid test, but the rapid test is only good for 24 hours. So we were delayed at the airport coming home in Denver, and we had to have another rapid test. And that one was not a rapid test, sorry, a PCR. And that one was good for 72 hours, but we just needed it for the next morning. And then I was chosen at random to do a rapid test or to do another test at the airport in Calgary. So for me, it was 4. For the elders and my husband, it was 3.
Okay, got it. You were extra special. You did an extra test in there.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so sorry to interrupt. When
okay.
You were saying about the what did you call it? A demonstration or just a walk is what you said it was, but it was huge in scope. There was like thousands of people there, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, got it. Okay,
yeah. So
carry on.
And then we just we saw some of the sites. The Magnificent Mile is a mile-long shopping center or shopping stores along the mile, and so just saw some things that thought maybe we could make our way back to. But once we got to the museum Monday morning, we were pretty much tied up there every day till at 4, 5 o'clock in the afternoon. So the elder, the woman that I was with, Charlene, she was the one who was taking care of the headdress. And so the headdress had actually been on exhibit for 70 years without really being moved. And when she started taking it apart, we found out it was being held together by wire, and was very, very dusty. Had the feathers were getting pretty old. The weasel tails, there was some adhesive, some black paint. I'm not sure from what, probably from the display itself. So in the first couple of days, she did take it completely apart and counted the feathers and counted the weasel tails and waited for some material to arrive that was ordered. And a friend, one of the other headdress women, sent some rawhide for that, but everything else was the material. When she put it back together at 5, and the last Friday was that was it. We were done. And so she put it together, and we left the museum at 5:30 on Friday, and she had put the whole thing back together. But again, all the original feathers, all the original weasel tails, all the original brass beads and brass bells and other feathers remained with the headdress. So it was quite a process to watch her. She was very dedicated to what she was doing and just really knowledgeable. And her husband, Roger, told so many stories. And at one point, when she was putting it back together, I had asked him to come in to the room and name some of the items in Blackfoot, for example, the feathers themselves. So then he started telling stories, and she was working away, and then he left the room, and she was having difficulty with it, and she said, "Where is he? I need him to come back and tell stories. I'm not able to." So I went and I got him, and he came back into the room, and he was telling stories, and she sat there and she was working with her hands as her husband told stories.
She needed that ambience of him telling stories for her.
Yes, yes, it was really amazing to watch a couple like that. My husband and I, when we travel, we're always very tense. And so they really kept us calm, but I think it has more to do with humility. They kept us humble, right? Our egos weren't able to just go in all different directions. We really had to stay present in the moment, to each other, to ourselves, but to our elders who entrusted us to take them there and be part of the whole process. So my husband and the other elder, the male elder, Roger, they were able to take in many exhibits and look at some of the collections, where Charlene and I were mostly in the conservation room, just working with the headdress itself. We took in a couple. I took in the botany one, and their collection there is just amazing. Like, they have seeds, and their corn collection is just very intact. In fact, the indigenous people had been there the day. A group of indigenous people had been there the day before to look at their collection. So they get, it's just a massive museum.
Wow.
And then they really wanted us to see Sue, the Tyrannosaurus Rex that they had found intact in Colorado. And Sue Henderson, I'm going to say, I have the information here, but she was the one that found it, and so they named it after her, Sue.
Nice.
Yeah, so it was very interesting. And then to see many of the fossils had been collected in Colorado. I didn't know that they had that much there, and like, even there was a primate that was collected in Colorado. I didn't know too much about that. So really makes me want to go back to school and learn more.
Nice.
But yeah, I was very amazed at just that was an hour of my viewing. But Clark and Roger, they saw many exhibits and had many conversations outside of the conservatory. But I mean, just our work with two conservationists was really enlightening, and they said that's the first time that they knew of that this type of work had happened in the museum, to have an Indigenous person come and take care of one of the artifacts that was there. So we saw the room, the exhibit that was going to be opening up in May, and the Blackfoot headdress that the elder worked on is just a small display of it. So I'm not sure what the whole thing is going to look like, but it's a massive display. And this is the first time they had revamped that whole exhibit in, like I say, 70 years. It had stayed the same for that long. So they were revamping it.
When you were saying the feathers were all dried out and everything, so then do you replace the feathers, or do you like replenish them somehow?
Well, those feathers are actually spotted eagle feathers, and they're much more rare now. Many of the headdresses are put together, the more modern day headdresses. My headdress is actually the bald eagle.
Because they're plentiful still. They're like the spotted eagles are not many of them, right? Is that
yeah,
correct?
yeah. And she said it would take about 7 years to get the spotted eagle feathers, because you have to request them from Fish and Wildlife, and even taking them across the border is another thing. So you have to go through a lot of bureaucracy. So we worked with the feathers. The conservationists from the museum had some ways to fill them artificially, so they were sharing some of their techniques with us, and so they looked much fuller. But just cleaning them, they spent days just preening those feathers, just with great care and great love, and so it was really awesome to watch them work as well. And they worked side by side with the elder, and I helped a little bit, but I was just like in awe watching everything that was happening in front of me, and to know afterwards, to hear that this is the first time something like that has happened in a museum. So I was really I really felt honored to be part of that. Yeah. Humbled because I didn't do very much, right? I didn't have the knowledge, and the elder was just so just kept working. Like, we have a lunch break, and she'd say, okay, let's get back at it. And she'd be back in there working, and just her focus was always on the headdress. It was never far away from that. She knew she had something to do. And she said, and I'm leaving at 5. I'm leaving on Friday evening, whether it's done or not. And they were saying, we have a spare bedroom. We could keep you here. But she was determined. She was going to get it done. And she did. 5:30, she got it done. So, and we got to meet many of the employees from there, and so they were very welcoming, just very excited about our visit and about the work that Charlene was doing. So they were very open. So that was really nice too. Yeah.
In the end, the headdress was restored to its majesty. It looked really good.
Yeah, nice. It did. Yeah, so I have, they recorded much of the work, but at one point the recording stopped and would not record when she took it completely apart. The headdress did not want to be recorded, and everybody felt the spirit from the headdress, everyone, that it brought everyone together, number one, but how it was chosen to be part of the whole exhibit is another story. There's so many stories within it that it's just like, again, really amazing that this little headdress brought so many people together. And that was the elder Roger. Before we left, he said a prayer, and he was mentioning that they would continue to work like that and collaborate, and to invite other Indigenous people to be part of the work that was being done. So
beautiful. That's like a once in a lifetime experience, eh? To have that. Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah,
definitely.
TJ's been saving up comments. She's ready to jump in here. Annette.
I just have a question. I'm really curious. So, in the Chicago area, what is the closest First Nation, and were there any elders or community members from Illinois, with you or there or present?
There was someone who taught, worked within there were maybe about 2 or 3 Indigenous people, but not just from North America. There was one from Pakistan or India. So we got to meet quite a few people, and but we did meet a small delegation that had come in to look at the corn, and I believe they were the Oneida who came in. So and they had a big poster up about the Crow who had come in and taken their artifacts home. So that was a big celebration for the museum to be part of that as well. But our main contact, at least while we were there, and remains a contact, and is supposed to come in the summertime, identified himself as Cree, and so he was part of the museum. But they also have a team that works on repatriation, and they were Indigenous, so we got to meet them and talk a little bit with them. So they were both pretty new to the museum, so the whole goal and vision for the museum on repatriation, I believe, is being envisioned, developed by everyone there. So yeah, we did. Eli came to meet us on Sunday night. We had supper with him and we were talking with him. So we knew how to get to the museum, and he met us at the doors, and then was with us the whole week, the whole time we were there. So that was really nice. But yeah, they were very welcoming. They had many different departments as far as conservation for that we had lunch with them on the first day, so we got to meet quite a few people. Yeah.
So you just also mentioned something that I was also curious about in terms of, this headdress. I'm, being a Blackfoot headdress. Was there any conversation of any of the artifacts being brought home?
I don't believe they're there yet. They said that there had been other Blackfoot people in the past, 20 years that have gone there, but I wasn't really involved in those conversations. Roger and Clark were, having those conversations, but because it wasn't an official visit for that, we were mostly there for the headdress to restore the headdress so it could go on display. That was our main goal. As far as repatriating any objects, any items, that really wasn't our goal. I believe there is always room for that, and maybe sometime down the road the elders might seek to do something. But the Blackfoot collection, there were like they looked when Charlene was meeting with the team on Zoom, because she had been meeting with the team on Zoom for months before we actually went, and she had them show her the headdress and to see if there was any ochre, to make sure that it wasn't a ceremonial item, that it was like, so if my headdress that I have was given to me in a social at a powwow, as many headdresses are there right now. So it's not part of our sacred ceremonial societies. So they wanted to ensure that it wasn't. If it were, it probably would be a different story altogether.
Ochre's like a color, a paint on it kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And if it had that paint, then that means it was ceremonial kind of. Is that correct?
Yes.
And then if it wasn't, this headdress didn't have that. But if it did, that would prompt a repatriation type of a.
It would prompt a different conversation, that the elders would have had. That's their role. My husband and I are currently we're the neophytes of ceremony, even though we're as old as our elders, but they've had that experience and they've had that honor of having those transfers, and now can transfer. My husband and I haven't earned that right to do that, so there's so much more involved in it. And so but I do believe it would have been a different conversation altogether. The elders wouldn't have been there putting this together and then giving it back to the museum. I believe there would have been something else that was happening. So
but for that artifact, to be preserved forever, you have to have some pretty specialized type place to keep it, right? Like, couldn't say, oh, we'll take it back and throw it in a net's closet. Like that ain't going to cut it, right? You need to have a pretty, wouldn't, don't you, wasn't the museum there fairly sophisticated in terms of how they care for that? No? Oh, all right. Okay.
No, I mean, like I said, it had been on display for 70 years and it was, exposed to the elements. And
like it wasn't in a glass case, or
it probably was. I believe it was in a glass case, but at the same time, it had dust. It had big particles of dust on it. It had adhesive on it. It had paint on it. So that was part of the conservationists' work. They were taking that off very carefully to try and keep all those small pieces intact. But no, there was no special care. Can't say there was any special care, as far as I know. Maybe some of the feathers, why they were in such disrepair, was because there were not ants, but insects, that had been on it and whatnot. So, no, you would think that that's what they do, but I didn't see anything that would suggest that they have great care. I mean, they have like traps, and they do try, but it's an old building. So, it's always open. If they see something, like one morning we were getting there and they saw a cockroach. Well, the protocol is they let someone know that they saw a cockroach there, hey? Okay. So they have to follow their own protocol, but it's not like we had to put on PPE and we had to put gloves on and all of that. No. It's very much still open. The conservation room that we were working in is very closed. Like you have to have a key code to get in, a key card to get into the doors, and they close, and you have to make sure they're closed. So there is some, but not like you would think a lab that just everything is closed off. It's not like that.
Okay. Yeah. No. Okay. Hey, tell me, correct me if this is Hollywood bullshit. I watched that movie, A Woman Walks Ahead. Have you seen it before? Woman Walks Ahead, that show. Anyways, the Chief Sitting Bull in the movie says that every animal has just enough brains to tan their hide. So every animal has. All right, I guess if you tanned every hide from every animal, you know that. But have you ever heard that before?
No.
Oh. No. I know that Marilyn Contois from the library, she's like on a project about tanning hides, right? Getting hides donated and brains donated to make the brain juice. That's probably not the right word, I wouldn't think, but the brain juice to tan the hides. So yeah,
I've seen it done. I went to school in Lac La Biche, and they had a cultural crafts program that many Indigenous people from up north, Dene, they all participated. So one day I was in a health promotions program, and one day they brought us out to where one of the elders was helping, or was showing and teaching them how to prepare hides and tanning them. So I did see the process. It did use brains, and I was like, no, that's not really my thing. But the elder, Charlene, she does that. She harvests, she can, take apart the buffalo, and she can tan the hide, right? Next week or this week, my daughter is hosting someone from our community who does buffalo hide tanning. So it's a mini course that he's offering, because he's very tired of being the only one that does it in the community. So he's not the only one, but he's well known for doing that. There are others. Maybe not as well known. So anyway, he wants more people to learn how to do that. So he's offering his time through a course to tan some hides this week. So yeah, not everyone. I think I should send my granddaughters these little tiny hands that I have. They look bigger, but they're actually very tiny, and they don't work very well. They're getting pretty old. I think I'm past that time to actually tan hides.
It's like pretty physically demanding work, right? Like, I mean, you're like scooshing the brains into the, yeah. So, yeah.
And it's time consuming. I was visiting with someone else last week, and she said they were told, why don't you go do that? And so they were like, yeah, we can do that. She said they only did a little portion after
Oh, is that
hours,
right?
just a little portion. So she said it is really hard. So I know a lot of people are interested, but it is a career, right? Of doing that. That's what the ancestors, that's what the
Yep.
grandmothers did of past, and they
You
were
bet.
well known for that, right? So
Yeah, you think of, man, the buffalo for Indigenous people, what an asset that was, right? And how callous of, let's destroy all the buffalo, like, cut off this supply of this, important resource to these people, so that was crucial for their survival, right? I mean, man,
staff of life. I've heard the term.
Yeah,
The buffalo were the staff of life.
makes sense. Yeah, it makes sense. Cool. Well, so do you have, or is it appropriate to have like any photos or video that we want to share? Like, not now.
No, I'm a week behind. Well, not quite a week. I said I would have it done on Friday, but I'm still recovering. It was a really lengthy trip, and last week I was still very tired. And of course, we got held up in Denver, so that threw us off. And then it was a time change, so we were on Chicago time, Denver time, and then we came home to Calgary, and so it was quite the time change. So yeah, we're collecting the photos. I'm collecting the photos, and I'm hoping to put together a little video. So maybe next Monday I'll have something ready. But yeah, Clark has photos, and the museum has actually shared through a cloud with Clark all the photos that they collected of the work. So there are like copious amounts of photos that I need to try and put together, and how I will put it together, I think, and our elders want that too. They want that story to be told. It was nothing secretive about what we were doing, what they wanted to do, what they were doing. So, and there will be a small delegation that will go back in May when the exhibit is opened and the headdress is there. I believe they're hoping to bring some women of the Headdress Society, Stand Up Headdress Society, to be part of that. But because it's one small display in this big exhibit, it won't be, like what the Crows did. They brought horses, and they were in their full regalia, and they brought home much of the artifacts that were in the museum. So nothing like that, but something small, simple, to say we're still here, as well as Blackfoot women, as Blackfoot people.
Yeah, beautiful. That's great. Well, so then if you know what, I'm pretty sure TJ's looking for something to help you with. So maybe you want to send her like 1 million photos, and she'll put them together in the best 82 or something like that.
Yeah. Well, certainly, I'm open for that, TJ. We're connected, so we're sisters. Yeah.
Exactly.
Annette, I'm really curious. Who is you triggered for me, the buffalo tanning, and who is it that's offering
the course? Yeah, who's doing the course?
Corey Wadsworth. Yeah, I believe there is a poster. I'm not on Facebook. I mean, I have a profile and I was very active on it, but I believe there is something on Facebook, but I can't tell you where, I can't tell you who. But I mean, if you know my daughter, Deandra, she probably has it on her profile somewhere that they're offering this. So certainly, yeah.
Yeah, I'll take a look for sure. I'm just...
Corey Woodworth, is that what you said?
Corey
Wadsworth.
Wadsworth. Yeah, Wadsworth. That doesn't sound like an Indigenous name.
Well, some of us had the names directly translated, and some didn't, and or wherever it came from. But yeah, some families came from European descent as well. So some of those names were taken by the children.
Yeah, makes sense. So, well, I know, just at a quick little Google, I'm not finding it, but I think it would be good if we sent out a little note about it, just to let people know, hey, if this is something, your lifelong dream is to know how to do the traditional Indigenous way to tan hides, come on and get your fingers in the brains.
Yeah, I think I saw it on Twitter as well, and I don't know how to share Twitter if you're not on Twitter. So I'm not as skilled at some of these things. I'm not a digital native. Let me say it like that. I'm just an Indigenous person. I'm not a digital native.
I love it. I love it.
I'll see if I can find it. But TJ, if either of you find it, just send me an email or something with it, and then I'll just do a little post about it.
Sure.
To let people know that if they are interested in checking that out. So, okay.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so next week, maybe we're going to have some pictures, or we'll talk about it. Yeah. Okay. Good.
Yeah.
Excellent.
I'll have a small presentation, if not the full presentation. But there was so much that we took in, so I'll try and put something together. Yeah.
Beautiful. Well, thank you for sharing that. What a great journey you're on. What a beautiful, beautiful experience you got to have. That's awesome. And what a service you've done, like to keep that artifact like alive and able to be viewed and enjoyed. So that's great.
Thank you.
Okay. Gitamatsin.